Hey guys, PepperAmmy here. This week it is Brewfest in the World of Warcraft, and with Oktoberfest being cancelled this year due to reasons, what better time to make some homemade bread pretzels and some beer cheese dip. Now for the pretzels, you will need 1.5 cups of warm water, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1/4 cup of melted cooled butter, 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and 1 egg that will be used for glazing, along with 1 teaspoon of water on top of that. And of course, what pretzel is not complete without some good salt sprinkling on top. Now, as a optional step, you can make a pretzel bath to dip the pretzels in before they go into the oven, and for that you will just simply need 2/3 of a cup of baking soda, or around 150 grams, and 10 cups of water, or around 2 liters of water. Now to start the pretzels, in a large bowl, preferably a bowl of a stand mixer if you have one. If not, you'll just have to mix and knead by hand. But first we want to add the warm water, the sugar and the salt, and give it a quick mix, and then sprinkle over the yeast and let stand to one side until the yeast becomes active. This is a good way to check if your yeast is still alive. And the good sign of this would be when it starts to froth on top and there's a lot of bubbles going on. And then once you have a nice frothy yeast mixture, add your melted butter and the flour slowly. Now you want to add in around 1 cup at a time until you get a nice even mixture. And then once everything is combined, you should end up with a nice soft dough that you can work that isn't too sticky. Now if you're not using a mixer, turn the dough out onto a floured work surface and knead for a few minutes until the dough springs back when poked. Now unfortunately, I don't think the camera picked this up too well, but hey, just take my word for it, this is some very springy dough. If you're not using a mixer, turn the dough out onto a floured surface and knead for a few minutes until the dough bounces back when poked. Now, the camera sadly had a bit of a hard time picking this up, but this is a very springy dough. And once your dough is nice and springy, move to a lightly oiled bowl and cover it until doubled in size. Now this should take about an hour, but it may happen quicker, so just keep checking on your dough periodically, as we do not want to let this overproof. Now while your dough is proofing, we can prepare the water bath by boiling your water and adding the baking soda. Now you want to do this in a large pan, as the baking soda will make the water fizz. Once all the baking soda has dissolved, simply remove from the heat and set aside. Once the dough has proofed, preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. And remove your dough from the bowl and weigh it. Mine was around 190 grams. And then simply divide it in half and split into 5 on each side. Or you can simply divide it into 10 by weight. But if you want slightly bigger pretzels, simply only divide it into 5. Working with 1 pretzel at a time, roll it into a long rope approximately 20 inches long. The best way of doing this is to roll it by hand at the start, and then if you can't get it any longer, hold both ends and simply swing it while slowly stretching it to the desired length. Now to shape the pretzel, simply make a U and twist the ends over and fold back down to the lower part of the U, and then press down the ends. In my experience of making pretzels so far, The first one always turns out a bit like pancakes. It tastes great, but it's just a little bit special looking. Then simply use a spatula or a wire spider and add the pretzel to your water bath, and then use a spoon to keep splashing the water over the pretzel for 30 to 60 seconds. The pretzel should become more fluffy and softer. The pot size I was using, I could fit up to 4 pretzels in at a time. It's much faster to work in batches of 2 or more, but to start with, until you get the hang of it, it might be a lot easier to do 1 at a time. Once your pretzel is thoroughly bathed, place it on a lined baking sheet and then do the other pretzels. Once all of your pretzels are bathed, beat 1 egg with 1 teaspoon of water and then glaze all of the pretzels, making sure to get in all of the folds. And then sprinkle with some salt of your choice and bake for 12 to 15 minutes until they are nice and golden brown on top. Remove from the tray and place on a wire cooling rack. Now, to make the beer and cheese dip, you will need 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 cup of beer. Pilsner works great for this, that's what I personally used, and I actually really enjoyed the taste of it. Mustard. Now, how much you add is completely up to you, but for a good base I would use about 1 teaspoon. Now, I went a little bit heavy-handed on this and the dip turned out very mustardy, but that was fine. Half a cup of milk and 3 cups of grated cheese of your choice. Now, if you want a nice spicy cheesy dip, I can highly recommend adding some Mexicana cheese, and then if you want a more creamy, tangy dip, then add a small amount of goat cheese. And then, of course, season with salt and pepper. Now to start, simply melt the butter over medium heat in a medium pan, and then whisk in the flour until you have a thick golden paste. While whisking, add in your beer and milk and slowly mix until combined, and then heat through and remove from the hob. Add your spices of choice like your mustard, your salt and your pepper here, and the cheese, and let that melt off the heat, stirring until fully combined. Then simply pour into a serving bowl and serve with your cold or preferably warmed pretzels and enjoy. Now, this was a fun video to make. It's combining my love for gaming and cooking, and it's also the first themed video of the channel. Now, the pretzels turned out absolutely amazing, much better than my other attempt at making pretzels. And the dip actually tasted really nice, even though it is incredibly unhealthy because it is literally just melted cheese. But as always, I hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, please let me know in the comments down below, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more weekly cooking content. I hope to see you all again next week. Thanks for watching.